Hey, everybody. I am Haley Gray, and I'm here with my guest tonight, Genie Goodwin, with myrelationshipgenie.com. And welcome, everybody. If you guys are on the live, give us a hashtag live. If you're on the replay, give us a hashtag replay and let us know that you are out there. And welcome, Genie. So happy to have you here.
I'm waving to all the lives. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for having me, Haley. It's really a pleasure to be here tonight.
This is so much fun. Now, tell us what it is exactly that you do.
Oh, well, I love that. I love the question. I move my clients out of confusion and inaction into clarity and passionate action. That's what I actually do. I am a certified high performance coach and I am a relationship expert. And I have this belief that I've had for many, many years that every problem in life is actually a relationship problem.
I can see that, actually.
Yeah, it's totally my belief. And if I can transform a relationship, whether it's an internal relationship or an external relationship, I can transform a life. I can pull the best out of you. And when the best is flowing out of you, you actually transform everybody around you. Everybody always says to me, like, well, Genie, you can't change the other person. I highly disagree. I highly disagree because really what happens is when you believe in another person, you can absolutely transform them. When you step up with compassion or kindness or wisdom or goodness, you can absolutely transform the other person around you. That's what everybody's looking for, right?
Mm-hmm.
I highly believe that you can transform everybody around you, and you do it by the way that you show up, by the best of you showing up. And that's where all the magic is. How can we get the best of you to show up?
Cool. So, why is it, do you think, that people don't think that they can affect how the relationship is or affect the other person?
Well, I think, well, here's what I usually get. Here's what people say to me, like, Genie, I've tried it all and nothing works. So they think that because they've tried it all, and usually trying it all basically means I've tried 2 or 3 things over and over and over again, and they don't work no matter how often I try them.
That would be the definition of insanity. Try the same thing over and over again and hoping for different results.
You got it. And they just think that they don't know how to make the difference, or they're not willing to, or it's not worth it because everything that they've already tried doesn't work. But the idea that nothing works, that's insanity, if you ask me. There's all kinds of things that work.
Mm-hmm. So, if I were to say, okay, I've got this problem, person at work, and I just can't stand working with them, what is the first thing you would tell somebody?
Oh, gosh. I think the first thing, what a great question, by the way. I think the first thing I would tell them is I would ask, what are your greatest qualities? Yours. Because if I can empower you, right? Now you're no longer a victim. You're no longer like somebody else is making my life miserable. You're no longer not in control. Circumstances are destroying my life. I can empower you. So the first thing I would do is, and certainly as a high performance coach, what we do is we look at what are the greatest qualities of you and how do we pull the greatest qualities of you out?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I would go with it first.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Typically, a coach goes, what do you want?
Yep.
Right? That's the first question a coach would ask, well, what do you want?
Right.
But I go to, let's talk about what the best of you is and how the best of you would show up in that situation, and how is that different from how you're showing up now, and what would the end result be? I just take it from a totally different angle.
Yeah, absolutely. So what exactly is a high relationship or a high performance coach?
There were some studies done, the largest studies ever done on high performers. And it's like you have this idea of you want to succeed in life. So what are the pillars of success? Concept. That's a concept.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the study was built off of what are the pillars of high performance, so that if anybody on the planet, no matter their circumstances, no matter their sex, no matter their education, no matter their financial state in life, if they were to study these pillars, would they become a high performer? And the truth is, yes, indeed. If you study the pillars of high performance, you end up becoming a high performer. And a high performer basically means that you perform above the norm over the long term of your life. It's not like, give it your all and then burn out and fall down, give it your all, burn out and fall down. It's you perform above the norm over a lifetime without destroying your well-being, meaning your health, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or your peace or your
Absolutely.
finances, and without destroying your relationships. That's a high performer. That's what I want to be.
Right.
And that's what a high performance coach does. They actually help you study the pillars of high performance and drill them in until your performance levels are above the norm over the long term without destroying your health or your relationships or your well-being.
So what are the most important markers of a high performer?
Well, when you think of a high performer, typically, without having done any studies or anything, you think of somebody who is more productive than everybody else, correct?
Perhaps.
That's what you think of. That's the normal, high performer. It's about outperforming everybody else. So really, you're going to look at your productivity. That's one of the pillars that you're going to pay attention to. But one of my favorite pillars that you should pay attention to is actually persuasion. Said another way, influence. How do you influence yourself to step up as your best self? How do you influence those around you to step up as your best self? Which is really where I kind of started the conversation that we're having tonight. I would
Mm-hmm.
want to pull the best out of you. So persuasion skills, influence skills is something that you absolutely want to take a look at it. Because what good is it to have
Mm-hmm.
the biggest dreams in the world, but not get yourself to act on them, or not get the support that you need to birth them into reality? No good at all, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I think that is a really valid point, that if you want it, you can want it all you want, but if you can't do it, or if you don't act on it.
That's right. And so in order to act on it, in order to create some persuasion or some influence in yourself or others, you're going to have a whole lot of courage. It just so happens that courage is one of the pillars of high performance. It's actually something, and I think of courage as a muscle.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have to build this muscle of courage in my life. So what are the exercises I would need to do to build my courage? So
Okay.
that's one of the things we would play with, because I happen to think that life is a great adventurous game. So we play with everything.
Absolutely. Yeah. No. And I mean, I think that repetition for most things, for most skills, whether it's courage or relationships or insert skill, that practice and that repetition is beautiful. And there's a favorite quote I have. It's like, hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard.
Ooh, that's beautiful.
And to me, it's the number of shots that you take, and practicing that shot over and over again, building that confidence muscle.
Yeah, it's beautiful, because you may already know this, but our lives, humans'
Mm-hmm.
lives, I want to say the statistic is something like 94% of your life is lived from habit pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Said another way, you're not even consciously, intentionally doing anything. It's just habit pattern. Habit basically means you're not paying any attention. You just always do this. This is how you react. This puts you in a life of reaction instead of a life of intention. Well, how do you build this amazing dream in your heart if you're not even intentional and present in your own life? You're living almost 94% of it from habit pattern. Therefore, the most important thing in the world would be to create new habit patterns that guarantee that
Mm-hmm.
94% of your life is going to move you in the direction of your dream. So that means habit patterns might be one of the most important things.
Absolutely. And I think that that's interesting because, when I think about it, I'm like, yeah, how many times do you get behind the wheel of the car
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, okay, I'm going to this place, and you start driving and you get there and you're like,
Wait. When did I,
How did that happen?
Exactly. When did I make that turn? Right. That can be real scary. Well,
Or
what
how did I end up on this
if your
interstate?
life is happening like that?
Mm-hmm.
What if the habit pattern in the relationship is anger or victim or um, taking somebody for granted, or they always ignore me, or like, what if that's habit pattern? It's not actually happening. Whoa, now we're playing in my sandbox.
So how do you break some of those habit patterns and reprogram them? Like with the, that, okay, I don't care what they say, I'm going to get mad.
Yeah. Oh, what a great.
This person just like triggers the daylights out of me. It doesn't matter what they say. I'm just going to be like triggered every single time I hear their voice.
Totally. Oh my gosh, what a great question. I think the first thing you have to recognize is that's happening, right? You've got to understand what's happening. Then you've got to create what would you like to happen. And then again, we have to go back to this idea of exercising the muscle. We have we have to actually create triggers. So a really fabulous book on habit patterns. For some bizarre reason, I'm blanking on it. I'll think
because it's like late at night.
So not bizarre at all. Thank you. And it's even later for you than it is for me. But habit patterns are built by three things. You have to have a trigger. Then you have to have the behavior that you've agreed you're going to do. And then you have to have a reward. And that right there is the key. Because if you don't reward the new behavior, your brilliant brain will go, well, that ain't worth it, so I ain't doing it. So you've got to reward yourself. Like, yeah, I did it. Oh, baby, here I go. Yahoo! You've got to actually do that to yourself. And what happens is your brain gets on board. So how would I break a pattern? I'd go, okay, so what do you want? Now let's create the new trigger. Let's create the exercise of what you're going to actually do, the procedure to create the new habit pattern. And then let's talk about the reward. I would actually take you through all three steps. And then I would actually make you work it out. Think about it. I'm a coach. Coaches make you work out. They don't just talk about things. So I would put you on a workout system. So it might have to happen 3 times a day for the next 30 days in order to rebuild the pattern. And the thing that would make it work, and always remember this, if you ever see a behavior in yourself or anybody else on the planet that you want to see again, reward the behavior. Because without the reward, humans just don't keep it up. Even if we know it's right, that would be nice. If we don't get rewarded, we don't keep it up. So the reward is the key, in my personal opinion, to making a habit, to creating a new habit, actually, the way I would say it.
Yeah. And Dan Ariely has an entire book and has done entire PhD studies on behavioral economics. And the first one is Predictably Irrational, and talks about his whole experience going through treating himself for hepatitis C that he developed after suffering burns over 90% of his body, and the subsequent blood transfusions. And that reward pattern that he had to give himself. He was on a trial drug, and he had to give himself an injection, and the injections made him very ill. But the reward pattern was, I get to watch all the movies I want for 48 hours.
Yay! Okay, so the concept, or the question that you threw at me was, okay, if I know I'm automatically going to get angry, how would you retrain somebody to get a new habit? So we need to figure out what you want, right? We need to figure out the new behavior. So let's say, instead of getting angry, I'd like to laugh. I don't know. Well, whatever, right? Cool. So the next time you choose to get angry, your trigger is the anger, whatever behavior, and you get to go, whether you feel it or not. And then you get to go, look at that. I just did it. I just beat anger. And if you'll actually do that, and now you can actually create the exercise when anger is not happening. You could sit down and remember something that made you angry.
Right.
And run the new pattern. and reward yourself, and you'll get the exact same result as if you were going through it trying to hang on to your anger, right? So all we're looking for is the exercise program that creates the brand new habit pattern in your life. But think about it. If you really wanted to get rid of anger and you had a simple exercise that you did on a daily basis for 30 days, and then anger was no longer a problem in your life, would you be willing to do it if you got rewarded every single day? Well, most people are. They just don't get intentional. They just say, you people need to stop making me mad.
Right.
Makes you a victim.
Absolutely. And I mean, once you're in that victim state of mind, gets a lot harder to dig out of that.
It can be really painful. It can be very discouraging.
Yeah, I agree. So, what is the most common relationship issue that you see people having? Like high performers, relationships, like what's the most common one that you see?
Oh, that one's easy. Men drive women nuts and women drive men nuts.
Okay.
And I don't really care if it's at work or at home, right?
So what is the driving them nuts thing?
Well, here's the way the reason why I actually ended up in this work in the first place is because I got married 2 weeks after I turned 18 to the man of my dreams. Crazy in love with this man of my dreams. And within 2 years, I was in a living hell. We couldn't talk to each other without fighting, and it was horrible. And we still loved each other, which made no sense to me. Like, how can you still love somebody, but you can't get along with them, right? Mm-hmm. And so I dove in to try to discover what the real problem was. And the real problem was I kept thinking he thought and should act like a woman. And he kept thinking, I think and should act like a man. I'm not a man, I'll never be a man. He's not a woman, he'll never be a woman. If I never discovered the difference between the way this was created to work versus the way that was created to work, then he was always wrong no matter what he did. And I was always wrong no matter what I did. And somebody was always broken. But when I discovered that men actually are a completely different and opposite operating system than women are, or there's a male operating system and a female operating system. And if I just discover what the operating system is, not any different than, a PC is different than a Mac. Now, I happen to be a Mac girl.
Same.
So I have a really hard time with PCs. Well, I had a really hard time with a man that I loved. Or even men that I respected at work. I had a really hard time getting through. I felt like I was getting run over. I felt like, they were taking credit for my ideas. I felt like what the hell's going on? Am I speaking a different language? Well, the truth is I actually was.
Yeah.
I was speaking what I call feminish, while they were speaking what I call Menglish. And until I learned the new operating system, the new language, the differences, and the way they're supposed to work and work with them, the problems just continued to get worse. But the minute I discovered there's a different operating system, he is expecting me to think and act like a man. Mm-hmm. I'm expecting him to think and act like a woman. And if he's not, it means he's cold. It means he's a narcissist. It means he's selfish, right? It means he doesn't care about me. It means like I'm unimportant to him. All these things that weren't even in reality, because
all these things that you have attributed to the situation that may not have even been there.
He was a woman. Exactly. So everything I thought and everything I did was going to continue to be wrong until I understood the new operating system. And that is typically the number one problem in relationships is we expect. Now, if I take male and female out of it for a second, and it's a problem between two women, it's the same problem with a different circumstance. Said another way, I expect her to act the way I want her to. And if she's not, she's a problem. Right? Let me say it this way, because the whole system that I'm talking about is 100% selfishness. It's all about me. It has to be done my way. And then I'm a happy camper. When I figured that out, I'm like, oh my God, because there is one law of relationships, one that makes everything work. And that is the law of love. If I'm approaching everything from a selfish place, it has to be done my way in order to make me feel okay, in order for me to relate to you. I can't ever win at relationships because I'm breaking the number one law. So that in a nutshell is why I do what I do.
Makes total sense. Yeah. And I mean, I totally get it. You know, when we start changing that shift, you know, affecting that shift of seeing it where somebody else is coming from, it definitely changes how the entire world looks and
It is
feels.
amazing. It's this miraculous power, like the problem person all of a
Mhm.
sudden feels heard, and they feel respected, and they feel honored, and their behaviors transform right in front of you because you did that for them. I
Mhm.
was talking to a client who actually had to go to a funeral. Her boss's son had committed suicide.
I'm so sorry.
It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. And she had to go to the funeral. And of course, the child who committed suicide was, I want to say 18, 19. And so there were 150 kids there. And my client was telling me that, Jeannie, the anger in the kids, the anger, just like, and they had alcohol in their cars. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, it's not legal. You can't have alcohol here. And this is what the kid said. The kid said, that's exactly how my parents handle stress. They numb themselves so they don't. Why wouldn't I? That's what I've been taught. And then the next thing the kid said was, so what I want you to see is the first thing my client did was she entered the kid's world. Like, what are
Mhm.
you doing? Explain this to me so I know where you're coming from. And what the kid said made total sense. Like, why would you expect any other behavior? But
Right,
then
because they see their parents, all of their adults and role models doing this.
you got it. And if they don't see their parents do it, they absolutely see it in the media, right? That's
And
how
their
you
friends.
handle life. That's where you have fun. That's where you break your stress. That's where. So if those are the only tools you have and you've been trained in, of course you're going to use them. Secondly, my client said, the next thing I did was, Jeannie, this boy was furious. He was absolutely furious. And I did what you taught me to. I said, well, what'd you do? She said, I just listened. I just let him be angry. And then when he was blowing off some steam, I said, what else are you angry about? I said, that was brilliant. And then she said, and then again, I said, well, what else are you? That's right to be angry. What else are you angry about? Well, I'm angry about this and I'm angry about that. And it was the end effect of, she met the kid right where he was. There was no judgment. I totally get where you're coming from. Is there anything else you need to express
Mhm.
with me? And she said at the end of it, I felt so close to this kid, and the anger had dissipated to the point where he could start to process some of the grief and
Mhm.
and some of the pain. Well, that's just humanity 101 right there. Meet people where they're at, don't judge them, honor what they're going through, and see how you might serve in the midst of it. That's just, again, that's just humanity 101 right there. That's how you fix any relationship.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. And I mean, having had one kid who was actively suicidal and another one who's thought about it, you know, it's tough.
It is
And you know, I can see where meeting people where they're at is huge. Meeting teenagers where they're at is tremendous.
meeting anybody where they're at is
Mhm.
tremendous, and the feelings and the thoughts that they're experiencing to them are real, and they
Mhm.
have to be processed. They have to, you have to go, man, I get that you're feeling like that right now. I totally get it. That's got to be really hard. I'm here with you. You're not alone. Man,
Mhm.
is there anything else you want to share? And just let them process the emotions, because if you tell them what to do or tell them that they're wrong, the emotions have not been processed. So they stay
Mhm.
and they toxify your chemical balance in the system. And then they get worse because they haven't been processed. Said another way, they haven't been felt and honored and moved on from.
Fantastic. So who do you work with?
Oh, I work with leaders who are overwhelmed with their workload and can't get the team to back them. They can't lead the way they want their team to show up. And they've got this big, massive difference that they want to make in their life, and they just can't figure out the pathway to make it happen. I typically work with leaders. I also work with people in marriages who are struggling and they don't want a divorce. They want to build something magnificent.
Very cool. So how would somebody go about getting in touch with you?
You can go to my website, myrelationshipgenie.com, and you can email me at genie@myrelationshipgenie.com. You can also get a free copy of my book, which I highly recommend. My best-selling book, here, I'm gonna put this up next to my face. My best-selling book, How to Win Her and Influence Him. This book, I am so proud of this book, because this book all by itself has transformed relationships. It has saved teams and marriages all by itself. They didn't even have to talk to me. That's how powerful this book is, because it's got step-by-step instructions. We've been talking about, a coach tells you what to do, how to create the exercises. That's what's in that book. The exercises for dealing with very specific problems. And what I did was I took the 5 top problems I've heard men complain about in their relationships, and I gave step-by-step instructions of what's actually really happening and how you get your needs met. And the same thing for women, the 5 top problems that women complain about in their relationships. And I just broke it down. These are the words, these are the actions, do this 4 times a day. Call me in the morning and let me know how amazing your relationship is. So you can get a copy of my book for free, myrelationshipgenie.com/free book. It's my gift. I want to transform the world, and I use the book to do it. So that's how you can get in touch with me.
Oh, and I dropped the link below. So that's awesome. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Oh, what a blast that was. It just went like that.
Boom, done, right?
Good job, Haley. Really
Thank
great
you so
questions.
much.
It was such a pleasure to have time with you tonight.
Thank you so much. This has been fun. I
Absolutely.
enjoyed it. Thanks, guys. We'll see you later.